Welcome to episode 87 of the Unstoppable podcast. This is the Monday solo round. My name is Astin-Gregory, and I am committed to hunting down the secrets of business mastery and human performance. My goal for the Unstoppable podcast is to share insights from some of the most successful entrepreneurs, inspiring thought leaders, world-class athletes, and prominent celebrities to help you to become unstoppable in business and life. Each week I'll be bringing you a new interview with an inspiring person and sharing my own results as I pursue the answers to the question, how can I create the ultimate edge in my business, make a significant impact, and live an extraordinary life? Welcome to episode 87 of the Unstoppable podcast. In today's session, I'm going to be providing you with a very different take on making plans for the new year and setting goals. Before we jump in, let's recap what's going on this month on the Unstoppable podcast. This is Transformation Month. Over the course of this month of January, we will be focused upon how to have a transformational year in every aspect of your life. We're going to be looking at business, finances, relationships, health, spirituality, and mindset. We've got it all covered. So be sure to subscribe to the show to make sure you do not miss a single episode. This stuff is going to make a huge impact on your life. We kicked off last week with part 1, where I introduced you to Derek Rydell. He walked through 7 tremendously powerful steps to creating radical life change in 2017. It's such an epic interview and a must listen. It is simply profound. And what is most interesting to me is that Derek has a deep knowledge of both Eastern and Western philosophy. And we actually recorded this episode back in November. And my own philosophical, musings kicked off several weeks after, during my adventures in Sri Lanka, where I was immersed in so many different cultures to our own here in the West. And, I didn't really connect the dots until now, but I'm sure my connection with Derek is all part of my own transformational process when it comes to kind of mindset and philosophy. So I'm making some big changes from the inside out for this year, and this whole process began, I think, back with that conversation with Derek. So you really must take a listen to that show. It's deep stuff, man. So this sets the tone perfectly for today's solo round, as we are going to be having a very different conversation about goal setting. Pay close attention. This episode could radically shift the course of your year, if not your life. Are you ready? Let's take a deep breath. We're going to go deep. Let's do this. Get into this right now. We're going to go. So let's start off with a question. Why do you choose the goals that you do? Why do you choose the goals that you do? We tend to start by looking outside of ourselves, the external, the things we want to bring into our life, the things we want to achieve, the places we want to go. But how would you set goals if there were no other human beings around? You were wandering the planet alone. Imagine you were taken to a brand new planet. It was just you. You and your good self. What would you do first? Well, initially you would take care of your basic human physiological needs for survival. But then what? If you're wandering the planet alone and you had absolutely no frame of reference for what it is, what is possible to you, what's not possible, and you had no external expectations upon you, then what exactly would you pursue? And how the heck would you know what to do? And why would you do it? I mean, think about it. Everything we do, whether we realize it or not, is actually in an attempt to feel pleasure or to avoid feeling pain. Meaning that all the goals you set are typically predicated upon what you perceive will bring you more pleasure. But have you ever stopped to think about why you believe that these specific goals will actually bring you pleasure? That's a big question. It is our pre-existing references to what has previously brought us pleasure and a future notion of what could bring us pleasure. But how do you really know? Who decided that certain things are pleasurable and that certain things are not? Did you decide for yourself? And when did you decide? Think about this. Our emotions are nothing more than a series of biochemical reactions blended with some level of consciousness. That's a fucking headfuck. Excuse the language. Think about that for a moment. all our emotions are is a blend of chemicals and mixed up with consciousness. So think about an activity that you absolutely love and try and understand at the deepest level why it brings you pleasure. For example, I love football, or I should say soccer to be inclusive of my friends across the pond. But why the heck do I love it so much? Honestly, there are bigger and more important questions that I could be asking, but I wanted to make you think. Think about something that you absolutely love. What about it gives you pleasure? And why do I love football? Why? What about these things brings you that sense of pleasure so much? Specifically when you're thinking about your 2017 goals, what about these things brings you so much pleasure, or the idea that it could bring you pleasure, that you want to center your entire year around them? It's a crazy thought. I just wanted to bring this to your attention to give some context around the rest of our session. And before we move on, I'm throwing one more thing in to scramble your brain. We've touched on already how some of the existing activities that we engage in, environments that we visit, people we hang out with, and things that we have in our lives bring us certain levels of pleasure due to our past references, our past experiences of the people we spent time with, or the past experiences of the things we've done, or the things we've accumulated, or the places we've gone. So we, like the simple creatures that we really are, went through a simple stimulus response process and in the moment felt pleasure, and our brain in that time wired up that we like these activities, environments, people and things. And most of the time this is happening unconsciously without further thought. Or we may have noticed that other people find pleasure from these certain things, places or people. So we automatically also linked up the pleasure or pain sensation without necessarily having engaged with the experience or stimulus ourselves. So we're just these simple stimulus response creatures, yet our brain links up that these things mean something to us. So it's based upon these reference points from our past, whether we wired up them consciously or otherwise. It's these references that makes us want to do what we want to do, or to be what we want to be, or have what we want to have. So when you strip it down to the basics like this, it's almost hideous to think about how simple we really are. Stimulus response. We're like tiny little creatures roaming the planet, constantly looking for these stimuluses that are going to provide us pleasure and help us avoid pain. So this begs the question, what else in this instance, given that that is how we operate, what else could give us these sensations of pleasure? What about all the activities, things, environments, and people that we have yet to have a reference point for? I'm not saying undiscovered things out in the world that we haven't found yet. I'm saying the things that you haven't experienced yet. Because if we know that all the things that bring us pleasure are based upon our experiences from the past, what about all the things that we have no experience of? So for example, I said I love football, I love soccer, but there's plenty of sports that I've never ever tried. So how can I make a judgment at this point whether I actually will find them pleasurable or painful or displeasurable? So think about all that untapped pleasure that could be had out there in the world. It's absolutely mind-blowing. We live in a significant universe. There is so much opportunity, and all this potential for pleasure could create an insane amount of overwhelm. I mean, where would you start thinking about all the potential pleasure that you could experience on this planet? On this planet, we're back on Earth now in this hypothetical question of what would you do if, you were on a distant planet on your own. This is about now, here in this planet Earth. And similarly, there's all this pleasure opportunity, but we also know that we need to focus in order to attain our goals and to achieve greatness. Nothing is ever achieved at a great level by someone who dabbles. But in doing so, if we have that level of focus, do we not put the blinkers on to a whole host of other things that would be pleasurable to us or even beneficial to us? What about that childlike wonder and awe that comes from exploring the unknown? We don't tend to do that so much as adults. And this brings up the debate, should we do that or not? How important is focus versus that exploration? And the challenge within is that aimless wandering and pursuit of pleasure, if we go down to the basic level of what we are, stimulus response, this aimless wandering of pursuit of pleasure would inevitably lure us away from working on something that's deeply meaningful all the way through to completion. Would be simply dabbling. Nothing profound is ever created from dabbling. The path of mastery is attained only through total commitment and focus. But do we select that path from our current menu of options based upon our current experiences and references that we've had to date so far? I'm 33 years old, and I base a lot of my goals upon what I know in my life that interests me or creates pleasure for me. And 33 years old, I don't know how far I'm into the timeline, but, I've had a fair few experiences. But do we instead still go in pursuit of alternatives before making the commitment to the path that we want to follow and to attain mastery in? Assuming that you want to achieve mastery, I certainly do. And think about this in terms of a context, a different example. In relationships, certainly in the Western world, for example, we don't necessarily marry the first person we meet. At least most don't. Some people do. They meet one person, they get married the next weekend. Other people, they'll play the field, proverbially, for a while. We go on a journey of exploration before making that commitment. So how can we take this approach in other areas of our life while still making clear progress, while still remaining focused, while still finding our path? And the important part there is to find your path. And the question I ask to you is, have you found it yet? Especially when it comes to your vocation, your business, how you spend your time. So how do we strike the balance of focus and yet tapping into that untapped potential within the richness of life that is only found by the voyage of exploration? I quite like that. I might have to say that again. How do we strike the balance of focus with tapping into the untapped potential within the richness of life that is only found through the voyage of exploration? And I don't have the answer to this. If you're waiting for the answer, I don't have it. But I do believe that the key word is balance. I also think the 80-20 rule could be applied here. 80% focused on the game at hand, your self-defined mission or purpose, and then the 20% on the exploration of the unknown, tapping into that childlike awe, that childlike wonder, that ability to go out and find things and seek new adventures. But this whole position of seeking, this whole promise of seeking, this whole concept raises the point of contentment versus the pursuit of more. Why can't we be satisfied with the pleasure derived from our current conditions or experiences? Why do we need to pursue the greener grass? Why do we need more? And again, this opens a whole new rabbit hole of philosophical debate, but simply put, the mindset of abundance says that this is not a zero-sum game, and that if we can, then we should. If we can, then we should experience more. We should experience growth in any area with infinite possibility, whereas the scarcity mind tends to operate from a position of lack and closes down possibility and suggests that you should stay in the same place. I know where I stand in that. I like to operate from the abundance mind, that there is infinite possibility and infinite potential, and that we are born with infinite potential. But similarly, what about the concept of being grateful for our present conditions versus pursuing toward a compelling future vision? This stillness versus motion. It's the power of now versus the magic of thinking big. These are great philosophical debates that divide many. Do we live in the now, or do we think about the future, or do we get a balance of both? What is important, though, I think, no matter what stance we take on this, is that concept of being grateful for our present conditions and all the things that are already into our life. All the things that currently bring us pleasure, having that true gratitude and recognition and appreciation for all of those things. But there is nothing wrong in my mind for wanting to pursue more. I live in that abundance mindset that there is always more, but I do it from a place not of lack, but of that childlike awe and wonder. I have cravings for adventure. I want to experience, but it's not because something is missing in my life. I'm grateful for everything I do have. I'm full. I am whole. And I encourage you to think about that for yourself, how you want to view that, and how you want to view the things that you already have in your life. And even if you're going through a challenging time, take time to think about the things that you really do appreciate. That simple breath, that senses that we have in our body. We joked about the simplicity of stimulus and response, but the very notion of having the ability to respond to a stimulus is incredibly powerful. Our ability to sense in this world. Even if you had nothing, that ability to sense the world around you is incredibly powerful. Has your brain melted yet? I blame this beard. I've been growing this beard since October last year. And this whole exploration of philosophy and deep, meaningful conversations has emerged as a result of the beard, I think. So before we continue, let me open another door for you with reference to the simple fact that at the most basic level, every goal that we pursue in the end is in pursuit of some higher level of pleasure. But what is the exact pleasure that you are really pursuing? Let me break this down. Say, for example, that you set a goal this year in 2017 for a new car. And that's arbitrarily, for argument's sake, that you want a brand new white Lamborghini Huracan. A nice, sensible vehicle for all the family. And you may already know that this specific car will bring you pleasure due to past experience with that specific car, or you may have some other frame of reference or evidence at an emotional level that supports that this car will bring you an enhanced sense of pleasure. But what pleasure exactly will it bring you? Why do you really want this car? And let me be clear here, I'm not judging any of your goals or mine. I'm an abundance thinker. I do want one of these cars. But answer me this, why do I want it? And why do you want the things that you want? What is the exact pleasure that what you are pursuing is going to bring you? And using this example of the car, the Lamborghini, I could fill a room full of people who all want this specific Lamborghini Huracan in white. And it's likely that if I asked each person why they want the car, everyone would have different answers and different reasons for wanting the car. Some similar, some very similar, and some wildly different. But what about me? Why would I want this car? Well, to answer you directly, to me, the car looks freaking awesome. And referring back to our previous point at the beginning, how do I really know that it looks awesome? It must be some reference to something in the past that tells me that this car, to me, looks awesome. That's just madness in itself. But I can also tell you that our brains have been preconditioned over time, over years, to admire sleek curves in nature. And that has something to do with it, but not all of it. Also, I do have some knowledge of alternative cars. I am particularly interested in motor vehicles. And I can make a positive or negative judgment for my personal preference against other cars based upon my preconceived notion of what makes an attractive car. But really, it's all superficial. So what would owning a car that I deem freaking awesome really bring me? Why do I really want it? Is it because I want to feel important or significant because I have this big lump of metal in the drive? Not really. Maybe a little bit subconsciously, but I was brought up to believe that this whole concept of being showy is arrogant, and that to me is pain. So I don't do things for the look of things. I don't do things to look in a certain way to someone else. This whole concept of showiness equals arrogance has been hardwired into my mental programming. So that's not the primary reason for me, but it could be for others. So why do I want this car? Well, what I like is the sensation of speed, the adrenaline, the excitement that comes from going fast. And that car certainly gives that opportunity. What else? To me, an expensive car like this, and it is expensive, we're talking a starting price of $200,000, entry level, probably doesn't even have any doors for that price. This represents, to me, having a car like this at this value represents the reward for making a major contribution to my marketplace. Having the available financial resources to be able to purchase this car would only materialize to me as a result of serving and contributing at a sufficient level in my marketplace and creating significant amount of value for my customers, my clients, and the market in order to produce a personal financial return that would provide me with the necessary capability financially to afford such a vehicle. So, within that musing, did you hear the primary pleasure centers or some of the primary pleasure centers that this car could activate for me? It's not the sense of significance, we know that. Maybe it's the excitement from the sense of speed and the sense of reward gained from my contribution to the marketplace, that sense of contribution and serving. It represents that reward for me. These are some of the inner emotional drivers that I am seeking to fulfill, that I'm seeking to experience as a result of this external goal of having the car. Now, I could go deeper with this in terms of the real emotional drivers for wanting this particular external goal, but I simply wanted to illustrate the point that every goal that we seek has a specific underlying emotional end. The goal is often seen as the means to attaining the end emotional state. However, is it at all possible that I could already experience these emotions within me, the sense of excitement or contribution, without having this car? Of course it is. These sensations, these emotions are already within me. They're wired within me. And in order to recognize them, they're already within me. And the specific pleasures that you are seeking are already within you too. So, what if rather than starting by looking outside of ourselves in 2017, we first look within ourselves to find what we truly want this year? Now, let me take you right back to where we began this musing. How would you set goals if there were no other human beings around, just wandering the planet alone? Now, once you've taken care of all those survival needs, you have total free choice. So if you were wandering the planet alone, how would you choose to feel in doing so? How would you want to feel? Now, rather than going to another planet, perhaps you could simply close your eyes and go within and ask yourself the very same questions. Do you want to feel as you wander and explore this planet in your lifetime? Each day, how do you want to feel? What emotional states is it that you are really striving for? How do you really want to feel on a consistent daily basis? Forgetting all those external things, the people, the places, the things, the environments. Forget those things for a moment. They're still important, but close your eyes and go within. What do you already know in your heart that you primarily want to feel this year? Is it love? Is it freedom? Is it happiness? Is it joy? Is it peace? Is it contribution? Is it passion? Is it vitality? Is it prosperity? Is it health? All of these things are simply emotional states that represent some of the deepest emotional pleasures that we truly and consistently desire. Not a fleeting pleasure gained from a stimulus and a response. These deep-rooted emotions are our deepest core desired emotions, and they are unique. The order that we want to experience these and how much and how frequently we want to experience these deep emotions are unique to each of us. There is no common pattern. Again, this comes from all our experiences through time. We've learned to want to feel a certain way. So what emotional states are you truly seeking? The external goals that we pursue should represent the inner emotional states that we are truly seeking. Otherwise, we are simply chasing empty dreams. So, with all these deep thoughts in, let me close today's episode by giving you a 5-step practical process to help you identify what you really want in 2017. So as I said, it's time to go within. 5 steps. Step 1, identify the core emotional states that you want to experience on a consistent basis. I'm talking daily, hour by hour. How do you want to feel as you live your life? No matter what you're doing, who you're with, what you have, how do you want to experience life on a consistent basis? How do you want to feel? Now, to identify this, you simply need to do as we have done. Close your eyes and go within and trust your inner knowing. You know in your heart what emotions or feelings that you desire the most. What are they? Is it love? Is it freedom? Is it happiness? Is it joy? Is it peace? Is it contribution? What is it for you? Is it passion? Write these feelings down and then put them in order. Which ones are most important for you? And if there was only one core desired emotion that you could experience every single hour, every single minute, every single second of every day, if that was possible, what would that one feeling be to you? Get clear on this. Step 2, take responsibility. This is a big one. This means a lot. Take responsibility by being these emotions. Remember, I said these emotions are already hardwired within you. In order for you to know that that is what you are seeking and what you want to experience, you must already have the emotion within you. So choose to make these emotions your default way of being. Your default way of being. I recognized an important breakthrough last year in my own life. I recognized that I tied my own progress to happiness. Therefore, I only had fleeting moments of happiness, that stimulus response. It would come and it would go. What I learned from that, and I had to go higher here, this is a higher level of thinking. I learned that being happy is a choice. It's a choice I have to make every single day. And by making that choice, guess what happens? I experience more of that emotion every single day than I ever have, especially now I recognized how I was requiring external events to trigger the happiness. Now it starts within. This is the point of this entire exercise. Firstly, you choose what you want to experience. Step 2 is to take responsibility. And this is a big thing. This is a big concept. That step 2 is to be the emotion you want to experience. Choose to feel, be, and do these emotions. This is a higher level of consciousness, and it's going to take time to bring this into your existence. But now I've planted a seed and you have that awareness that it is possible. Right now you may start to choose to feel the way you want to feel. But you have to be patient and focused, because you can make these emotions, you can experience these emotions on command, and you can make these emotions part of your identity, who you are, and your chosen way of living. That's deep, man. Step 2 is deep. Take responsibility. Let's take it down to a more practical sense. Step 3, write down a list of all the activities, the people, the places and things that you currently have or experience in your life that already enhance these core desired emotions. Notice I say enhance, because if you are already experiencing these emotions, what are all the things in your life right now? It could be people, places, things, activities, actions, tasks. What are the things that you do, be, and have right now that already give you these desired emotions or enhance them? This is about finding every facet within your life that bring out the core desired emotions that are already within you. What I would suggest you do is express gratitude for these elements in your life, the things, the people, the environments, and expand upon them in 2017. You know, if you hang out with a certain person and they make you feel a certain way that you're seeking, spend more time with them. If there's people in your life that take you away from that core desired emotion, spend less time with them. So think about all the things, places, people, activities, environments that give you that core desired emotion and expand upon it in 2017. You've made the list. Step 4 is to write down a list of all the new activities, people, places, and things that you believe by bringing into your life in 2017 will give you even more of those core desired emotions. And do this from a place of thinking about those core desired emotions and then selecting the activities, the people, places, environments, and things. Because think about this is about seeking. It's that piece we talked about in this episode. The first part is that those past references give us a knowledge of what makes us feel a certain way, but we also want to tap into that childlike wonder of finding the new, going beyond what we already experienced to find that new ground and opening up the doors to higher possibilities and opening up potential in our life. So make a list of all the new activities, goals, people, places, and things that you want to bring into your life in 2017 that's going to bring an enhanced, even more enhanced level of these core desired emotions. And then step 5, use these lists, the list of activities, people, and places, and things that you currently have in your life, and the list of all the new things, activities, people, and places, to set your goals for 2017. Use these 2 lists as the basis for setting your goals, and do this first. Most people set the goal without even thinking about the emotion, the end in mind. They think they're thinking about the end in mind by setting the goal, but the real end in mind is how you want to feel. So rather than arbitrarily setting goals and what you think that you want, use your newfound inner knowing as a guide. Give yourself more of what you really want to feel in 2017 by expanding upon what is already within you. Remember, these emotions, these desired states are already part of you. Claim them by taking responsibility and choose to live by your core desired emotions. And realize that when you take total responsibility for your being, only you can choose how to feel. Nothing outside of you can take that away from you. You are in full control. You may temporarily waver in the face of change or an environment or a person or a place or a thing, but remind yourself that it's only you who decides what meaning you're going to give your life and what emotion you're going to attach to it. The response is down to you. We have a stimulus and response if we act unconsciously, but if we consciously decide, then we're in full control. Take responsibility in 2017. So, how will you truly know if you've had a better year this year, a better year in 2017 than 2016? How will you measure that? Will you judge the year by the numbers, the external pursuits, or will you judge it by how consistently you felt during the year? Will you get to the end of 2017 and look back and see how you felt and noticed all those powerful emotions that you experienced on a consistent basis? Will you look in the mirror and see all the things you've accumulated and all the external rewards that you've achieved? Or will you look into your own eyes and see a person who is full with more love, joy, happiness, gratitude, peace, fulfillment, and passion than ever before? Make that choice. How will you live this year? Tie your actions to your emotions and not your emotions to your actions. Tie your actions to the emotions and not your emotions to the actions. This is the art of non-attachment. If we attach our emotions to our actions and we fail to achieve them, then we'll feel pain or at least some level of disappointment. Whereas, if we set our goals and actions based upon the emotion that we know by following our dreams, we'll create that emotion, then we will enhance our current levels of that emotion. That's a big sentence. So think about that. Rather than pursuing an action to achieve an emotion, select the actions based upon the emotions that it will achieve for you. Now, I hope you'll remember this very episode at the end of this year and take that moment in front of the mirror and see yourself smiling back at yourself, full of all those core desired emotions, knowing that this year is your most fulfilling and powerful year yet, and that you decided back in January that you were going to expand in 2017 and that this was going to be your greatest year yet. Now, before we finish, I want to close by saying that this 5-step process was designed to help you to understand what you are truly seeking at your core. But how do we then translate this into a clear set of measurable goals and priorities? These things are still massively important. I'm a big advocate of the art of thinking big. I'm expanding in this area myself. So what if you don't have an effective goal setting process? What if you're a couple weeks into the year and you don't have a clear set of goals or metrics yet? Fear not. In the next week's episode, in Monday, I'll be back and I'll be sharing my 10-step goal setting process to help you formalize your plans for this year. You may already be well underway by then, but after a slight period of reflection, it'll be a great opportunity for you to create a truly compelling and enlightened plan for an astounding 2017 based upon those things that you know in your heart that you truly desire. We are done for today. It's been deep. It's been a deep session. If you're still with me, I congratulate and honor you. I hope this has been a very profound session for you. I'm excited for you and your 2017. Let's do this. Let's be unstoppable. I'll be back on Thursday with a very special interview with Cheryl Barr. Cheryl is an expert in financial transformation, and we're going to walk through how to transform your finances in 2017. So do the work today on the inner game. What is it you're truly pursuing? Come back on Thursday. We're going to look at how we can change your results in the financial world. So until next time, go out there, unleash your greatness, build your empire, make your impact, and live your ultimate life. You are unstoppable.